Okay. All right, well today is Strive to be Kind Day, and I'm very pleased to be joined with Vanessa Fowler and also our Attorney-General Shannon Fentiman for this really important lunch today. As we know, this year marks 10 years, tragically, since Allison lost her life. And today is a day that we can show our respects, but also to raise money for the Allison Baden-Clay Foundation. I really want to thank Vanessa for her outstanding work as co-chair of our Prevention of Domestic and Family Violence Council. And of course we know that the Women's Safety Justice Task Force has handed down its second report, of which the government is due to consider very shortly. Later this year we hope to be introducing legislation about coercive control, and the fact that domestic and family violence is being talked about in the community is a good thing. And the reforms that we're putting in place, especially for the legal system, for women to navigate through that system, is very, very important and very, very critical. So I'll hand over to Vanessa to say a few words, and also to the Attorney-General. Then we're happy to take some questions about Strive to be Kind Day, and then we'll go on to other matters if everyone's happy with that. Thanks. Thanks, Vanessa.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you so much for being here with us today. Of course, we are extremely honoured to have the Honourable Premier of Queensland, Annastacia, Palaszczuk, with us, and also the Attorney-General Shannon Fentiman. It's certainly an honour to have them attend our lunch, as this year we celebrate Allison's achievements, Allison as a person. We share her kindness and her generosity with the community. As the Premier mentioned, it has been 10 years since we lost Allison, and since that time our foundation has worked extremely hard to ensure that we highlight the conversation around family and domestic violence. We as a family know that coercive control was a big part of the abuse that occurred in Allison's household, and so we are very supportive of the work that the government is doing around criminalising coercive control. We hope that the work of our foundation is a positive legacy for my sister. 10 years on, we know that we look back on the achievements of our foundation, but we also know that there is still much work for us to do. And as a foundation and a family, we are committed to doing that over the coming years, because we know that Allison and her 3 girls and the young women in society, as they grow and develop and enter their first relationships, will be aware of the signs of coercive control, and that Allison's name will be making a difference in the community. Thank you very much.
Well, it's a real honour to be here with the Premier today, supporting the work of the Allison Baden-Clay Foundation, and I do want to pay tribute to Vanessa, her leadership and her advocacy on this important issue. And 10 years on, I've been thinking about how far we have come since the tragic death of Allison, and while still many women are still murdered at the hands of their partner and former partner, and we will do everything we can to eliminate that violence, I do believe as a community we have come some way to better understanding domestic and family violence. And as Vanessa talked about, we now can understand that Allison did experience coercive control. She was isolated, there was financial abuse, she was emotionally manipulated. But at the time we really didn't have the language around coercive control to understand what had happened. And 10 years on, we are now committed to criminalising this very dangerous behaviour that is the biggest predictive factor in intimate partner homicide. And I'm very proud of the work that we are doing alongside the Allison Baden-Clay Foundation, particularly around educating the next generation. The work that the Allison Baden-Clay Foundation does with young people and really noticing those red flags in these kinds of dangerous relationships is critical. We have to act on those red flags earlier before more blue police tape surrounds another family home. And I'm very pleased that our government has announced an historic $363 million reform package based on the work of the Women's Safety and Justice Task Force. And again, I want to pay tribute to our Domestic and Family Violence Prevention Council and the work that they do to really bring the community along with us on this reform journey so the community can understand domestic and family violence and coercive control.
Are there any questions for Vanessa at all? Yes.
Vanessa, you and the Foundation have done some incredible work over the past years. Do you think Allison would be proud looking down on you?
Well, I think that certainly over the last 10 years we have, as the Attorney-General said, come a long way. When Allison was murdered, domestic violence was not spoken about. It happened behind closed doors and it was a taboo subject. I think that as a foundation we can hang our hat on the fact that now people understand that there is a language around coercive control. They can recognise the signs. We've been able to educate the community and continue to highlight the conversation. So I think that that's certainly something that we are proud of, and I know that Allison is looking down and will be very honoured and humbled and very proud of the work that we have done.
How significant is this Strive to Be Kind Day for you?
Strive to Be Kind Day is a particularly significant day for us as a family because we get to celebrate Allison's life. We get to celebrate her kindness and her generosity as a person. She was a loving mother and a caring and kind person, and she put others before herself always. So I know that she would be proud because she is making a difference in the community, and through our work, our family are creating a positive legacy for not only her but her 3 daughters.
The 10th anniversary feel significant to you guys, or does the pain get any less, I suppose? I know it was a hard question.
I guess it doesn't really seem like 10 years because each and every one of us miss her every day, but I think that we remain busy and we know that our focus is still on raising Allison's 3 daughters, and they are each finding their own way in life, and we are certainly proud of their achievements. So I think we certainly look back on when Allison passed away and the difference in the age from when the young girls were then until they are now, and they've certainly grown into beautiful young women, and we're very proud of their achievements.
Vanessa, what do you hope the Foundation will achieve over the next decade?
I hope that we will continue to make a positive difference in the community and continue to educate more people. I think that working alongside the government and ensuring that coercive control remains top on the agenda, ensuring that women and children remain safe and are thought of as far as being able to gain the courage and the confidence to speak out. And our hope is that domestic violence and coercive control is no longer attached with shame and judgment.
I do just ask as well, do you have any concerns about the quickly releasing the parole date?
I don't really.
That's all right.
But no, I don't know anything. Thank you. I don't have any comment on that
Okay,
one.
we might let Vanessa
want
go
to?
back to the lunch, and we'll see you
Okay.
we'll be back there at 12.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you. Can I also just mention that tonight the Story Bridge, Victoria Bridge, and I also understand City Hall will be in yellow, so very significant as well.
Premier, do you have regrets on how you handled WellCamp?
Can I just give the COVID update first, if you don't mind, Josh, if that's all right? Thank you. Today there are 9,420 new cases, and tragically 17 people have passed away. And once again, the majority of people who've passed away are the seniors in our community. Once again, I am pleading with Queenslanders, if you're a senior, to go and get your booster. It does not take much time at all. And also too, in relation to the ECA, the Health Minister has advised that there will be free masks available to people, and if anyone is feeling vulnerable, and especially there are going to be a lot of crowds indoors, I would urge people to really seriously think about wearing those masks, especially when they are indoors. Okay, Josh.
Yeah, do you have regrets on the way you handled WellCamp?
Well, let's just put some facts on the table, which I think is very important. And first of those facts is that in August last year, when we announced that we were proceeding with WellCamp, there were 5,114 people in hotel quarantine, and we were dealing with the Delta variant. And quarantine was a very, very big issue. As I've always said, quarantine has been a federal government responsibility, and we stepped up and authorised the building of WellCamp because we needed a dedicated quarantine facility. Now, I don't know what's around the corner in 1 year's time or 2 years' time. We didn't know that there were going to be 5,114 people in hotel quarantine. I went through hotel quarantine myself. I spent 2 weeks in hotel quarantine myself. This was a world that we were not used to, and we were in the midst of a pandemic. Also on that day, I'm advised that by that stage, around 800 people had actually passed away across Australia as well. So that was the situation at the time when we made the decision to proceed.
So no
that was
regrets.
the decision.
No regrets then.
We made the decision at the time.
So August 25, you shut down the entire hotel quarantine system with only a couple of hours' notice after having just come back from Tokyo yourself. Then the very next day you came up with the WellCamp answer. You created a problem and you had a political solution, didn't you?
Josh, we had been speaking about having a dedicated quarantine facility for about 4 or 5 months in the lead up to that. It was a national issue about the need for quarantine, and the states stepped up when the federal government stepped out.
But you created a problem and came up with the political solution. You were trying to wedge the
That's
federal
not
government.
correct. That's not correct
You
at
came
all.
up with WellCamp and it turned into a fiasco.
That's not correct.
Well, it is. And then you said that you couldn't fit in any more people. You had 5,000 people. But just 4 weeks later, you managed to fit in a number of NRL teams and the officials, the wives, the girlfriends. You had no problem finding space for them, but there were 8,000 Queenslanders locked out of the state for 3 months.
Well, Josh, the network you work for supports...
That's beside the point,
No, it's
Premier.
not beside the point.
You managed
Supports...
to find places...
It's Strive to be kind day. I'm happy to answer your questions if you are...
Well, there were 8,000 people
That's
locked out
not
of the
correct.
state.
I reject...
And now we hear that it
That's
cost
not correct.
$220 million.
I reject the premise of your question.
Do you regret not going to tender the project?
We needed a quarantine facility built quickly.
Do you have an apology for the people that you locked out of the state for more
My-
than 3 months
my
so
job-
you could build WellCamp?
My job was to keep Queenslanders safe.
But there were many Queenslanders locked out who were not safe at all. They were living in camps at Murwillumbah, some cancer victims. There were people who couldn't see their loved ones. So you could build WellCamp, and now you've mothballed it.
My job was to keep Queenslanders safe, Josh, and during those 2 years, Queenslanders lost 7 lives. Tragically, we lost 7 lives. I ask you to look at that record compared to what happened around the world, and I did my job.
Why didn't you work?
We might move on to other questions.
Estimates, when you said that, did you know when you're at estimates that WellCamp was being mothballed? Because Stephen Miles said on Wednesday that the decision was made earlier in the week. Did you know that it was being mothballed?
The decision was taken, from my understanding, on the Monday.
So you didn't know about it?
Sorry? Yes, I had a conversation with him, yes.
So even at estimates,
Sorry? It hadn't been finalised. We were discussing it.
You said back at the time... Bill
Josh, I
said-
doesn't see if anyone else has got any other
Well,
questions,
no, I've
with
got-
all
I've
due
got some
respect.
questions,
Okay,
Premier.
everyone
You
else
said-
has...
you said
I
at
will
the
take
time
other
Bill did and
questions.
they would come and
Yes,
they didn't
we'll
come.
take it in turn. We'll be
It's also
polite
about
today.
WellCamp.
Yes,
So-
that's fine, yes.
But about 700 people have stayed at WellCamp.
Yes.
Premier. How many were you expecting to stay?
Oh, well, we have had over 700 people go through that facility. And like I said, circumstances changed. I did not have a crystal ball that showed that Delta would morph into Omicron. I did not have that crystal ball. I made the best decision that was put before me at the time to keep Queenslanders safe.
So is 700 enough to justify the building of it?
Well, do you know what's around the corner? Can I just say, no one here knows what's going to be presented to us in 1 year's time or 2 years' time. Government has to act on the facts that are presented to it, and these were the facts that were presented to us at the time.
But Premier, you kept it quiet until the audit office started investigating.
I
That's when you shared
am
the information.
very proud of my record of keeping Queenslanders safe during 2 years of the pandemic. 2 years of the pandemic where we lost. Queensland has a very proud record that we only lost 7 lives during that 2 years, and Queenslanders stepped up like the likes they've never seen before.
Premier,
Any other questions? Sorry.
To end the lease early?
Sorry?
But why wasn't there an option for the government to end the lease early?
My understanding, this is the Deputy Premier answered that question yesterday, I think. Yep.
Premier, is the building of Wellcamp the biggest mistake you've made as Premier?
My job was to keep Queenslanders safe, and I'll stand on my record. And the people of Queensland will have the opportunity to cast their vote in a couple of years' time at the next state election.
Premier, Wellcamp didn't keep Queenslanders safe at all. What you could have done other measures at the time to keep Queenslanders safe.
Josh,
and
perhaps
keep the border functioning like every other state did.
I'll repeat to you again. Today is Be Kind Day. Strive to be kind.
Premier.
No, I'm serious.
Premier,
I'm answering
valid
your questions. I'm answering your questions. And I ask you to put yourself in my shoes and think about what you have done, what you would have done if you were in my position.
Premier, you were able to use hotel quarantine,
I'm
but
not gonna
8,000 people didn't. And you built Wellcamp.
Any other questions, Sam? Sam?
has announced that it will be delayed and over budget. Is that a concern?
Oh, look, my understanding is that there's a lot of industries at the moment that are being really feeling the pain at the moment because of rising costs, issues with sourcing materials, global supply chains as well. It's keeping people employed, and my understanding it has been delayed by a few months.
Remy, on your trip
Yes.
to Canberra, can you just detail your meeting with the Japanese ambassador?
Sure. So I had an official meeting with the Japanese ambassador, and of course we talked about a number of issues. The primary reason was to first of all express my condolences to the passing of former Prime Minister Abe on behalf of the people of Queensland, and secondly to have a good discussion about our decision in relation to royalties. This was a very important issue. It was an important issue. The Japanese companies, in my understanding, had been speaking with the ambassador, and we put in place a meeting with the Treasurer and those Japanese companies from memory for August the 6th. And I thank the Japanese ambassador for his time. It was a very cordial meeting.
Would you have modelling on the number of health workers likely to be furloughed and the big displays on the front way?
Look, I looked at those figures this morning, and that's a very good question. So from memory, they had reached around 2,200. I think they were down to about 2,100 today, but I can get you the exact figures. That's just from my recollection. So they are starting to come down, but of course we do expect that wave again to happen by the end of August, so we'll be watching that very, very carefully.
Did the ambassador relay those investment concerns to you again, and what did you say to him about those?
Look, we had a very good discussion. I'd like to keep those matters confidential, but we did say that our Treasurer would be meeting with those companies as a direct result of that official meeting.
Just on satellite hospitals, you
Yes.
gave the department a 2-year time frame to get them up and running by May 2023. There's been some issues with those time frames.
Yep.
Do you promise they'll be all delivered by the end of 2023?
Look, my absolute expectation is that they are completed in 2023. I understand, like we've said, everybody's experiencing these labour costs at the moment. I think that's being felt by everybody, and I know that they are doing everything they can to get them completed as quickly as possible with them. There has been some alterations to some of them. I think we expanded beds in one particular site, but we're of course taking this very seriously, and I do want them constructed in 2023. Okay, thanks everyone. Thank you.